Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. I hope you're doing well today. It is the 28th of October, and that means only one thing for yours truly. It's time to put up another video. All right, now if this happens to be the first time you have ever listened to this channel, I do want to welcome you. What we talk about here is Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, who and what Maitreya is, who and what a master is, what's Maitreya's priorities for all of us and the world itself, what it means for you personally, me personally, and everybody else on this little planet called Earth. All right, now if you happened to have stumbled across this channel and didn't know anything about this information, I do recommend checking out some of my playlists and the videos that are in there to give you a little bit more background on this information. We talk about the Masters of Wisdom in a different way than you would from maybe somebody else. It's more of a discussion. You know, I kind of answer questions, maybe comment on some of the comments and those kind of things. So if you find yourself a tad bit lost, maybe behind, but you're still kind of interested, check out those playlists. You know, maybe even check out my Maitreya experiences, kind of give you a different perspective on this information about, because I talk about some of the experiences I had with Maitreya and so forth. If you have happened to have listened to more than one video, I do want to thank you for coming back. And as always, you're welcome to come back as much as you want to. And then those people who have commented, questioned, I do want to give you guys a shout out as well. All right, now let's get on into it. Quit distracting me, man. Seriously, this is ridiculous. Tighten up. All right. The first series of comments, come from a gentleman who lives in Iraq, speaks Arabic, doesn't really speak English, and has to use Google Translate. So the first comment is pretty clear. The second ones are a little convoluted, so I'm going to kind of paraphrase those. Okay, so first comment is, same-sex marriage will not be allowed in the Arab world before the coming of Maitreya. Okay, now I want to break this up into two different things. First of all, the same-sex marriage problem I'll talk about after this, but will not be allowed in the Arab world before the coming of Maitreya is the second part. After the principle of sharing takes place, and let me give you a little background on what that means if you've never heard that before. If you know your history, right after World War II, the former general, the Secretary of State, George C. Marshall, came up with a plan. It was known as the Marshall Plan, where the United States gave some of the excesses that they didn't need for that year freely to Western Europe to help rebuild Europe after the decimation of World War II. Once those Western nations started to rebuild their economies, rebuild their infrastructures, they had some excesses that they could give back as payment for those the excesses that were freely given to it initially. Okay, helped rejuvenate the economies of not only Europe but the United States. The other outcome was quite extraordinary, where it created a very trusting relationship between the United States and the nations that they shared with. What Maitreya is advocating is doing that on a global scale. Okay, so that's what the principle of sharing is. So to get back to the comment, after the principle of sharing, each country on this planet will still be able to retain its own autonomy and its own right to govern itself. Now, there'll be a few differences between what will eventually be and what's going on now. Each country will be a part of the United Nations and have a voice in the say of the course of affair of all the nations, and have a greater voice than they do today because of the Security Council and the vetoing power of the permanent nations of the Security Council, i.e. the Russia, China, the United States, and Britain, I guess France too maybe. They can veto anything that they don't like that goes against their interest. So eventually, according to the Masters, the Security Council will be done away with, and when there is a conflict between nations, they will discuss it peacefully within the United Nations and help to resolve that problem with the efforts and the cooperation of all the nations. So that's kind of one difference. The other difference would be within each nation, again, having its own autonomy, its own culture, the people within that nation will have more of a say in what and how their nation is governed. So if the people of a nation want same-sex marriage and it's important to them, well then of course they will, and if they so choose to see that change, well, then the nation will have to change, and the masters won't really step in the way, to stop that. Now, if they don't want that, then they don't have to have it. You know what I mean? Now, the thing of it is, I do want to read a bit, the tail end, actually, of an article that Benjamin Creme's master wrote about the family. Now, there's a lot to this article. It was written in 2002, and it's mainly talking about looking at the parental role in raising children as a form of service, which is what it really is meant to be. And to look at the responsibility that a parent has to take on itself in raising that soul as a soul amongst a group of souls of the family. Where today it's kind of haphazardly kind of just done, and parents who maybe possibly shouldn't be raising children because maybe they're irresponsible, they're young, they don't have the resources enough, the education enough maybe it might be better for them to wait, kind of thing. But not saying they couldn't be great parents eventually, but maybe it's best for them to kind of wait for now, right? That's kind of the essence of it. And then also talking about parenting in the future. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because it's talking about same-sex marriage, and me personally, I have no opinion either way on same-sex marriage. But I was quite surprised when I read this for the first time back in 2002, the master's point of view and their position on same-sex marriage. So here we go. It says, today there is an added and growing twist to the problem. And again, the problem is how we're raising our children today. Okay, that's what he meant by that. Mounting sexual experimentation in the field of the family life is leading to a distortion and misunderstanding of the true nature of the parent-child relation. The child is a soul in a family of souls. This provides the family unit with the opportunities for resolving karma developed over many incarnations together in varying relationships. Hierarchy is not the enemy of homosexuals, but the growing demand of homosexual men and women for the right to raise children is mistaken and unhelpful to the child. So, that is the hierarchical view on same-sex marriage. Now, most of these, I can't say most, but a lot of these masters were homosexual in their last lifetimes. They've had lifetimes of being homosexual, I guess is a better way of saying it. Just take the Renaissance painters. A lot of those guys were homosexual, and they're all masters now. It has been said by Benjamin Creme's master that Maitreya himself, through the course of his incarnational experiences, experienced every aspect of human endeavor. So he must have been homosexual at some point. So they don't judge homosexuality as evil, and they don't judge homosexuals as being doomed to hell like Christians take it to be or whatever like that. Now, but their view on same-sex marriage is that it shouldn't take place. And so when Maitreya is asked, that will be his view. Now, he might phrase it somewhat differently, but that will be his advice to people is if you are homosexual and you want to be married, it's best not to raise children. So take it for what it is. Like I said, I have no opinion on it either way, and I was quite surprised when I read this because I would think it would be the other way. But there's a long-term plan for the family, and apparently same-sex marriage doesn't fit into that plan. And it's all about the soul of not only the child, but also the parents and the working out of karma. And for some reason that it doesn't have the same benefit for the child, I guess, and even the parents for that matter. Hopefully that helps. Now, the next two comments that this person was talking about are kind of funky and kind of convoluted. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase it a little bit. Hopefully I get the meaning of what he's trying to say. He's thinking that Donald Trump's going to win this election, and in so doing, there will eventually be a third world war because Trump will kind of force some nations to rebuild the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem, I guess, and talked about the Zionist movement. Anyway, in terms of the election, I am really 50-50 on whether Trump's going to win or not, or lose or not, or whatever way it depends if you're the glass is half empty or the glass is half full kind of person. You take it for whatever it is. even though Biden is way up in the polls now. Now, the interesting thing about the elections here in the United States, and I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, but I was reading something in online the other day that the last time a Republican president won was George Bush when he beat Governor Dukakis, in 1988. So that's 32 years ago. He won the popular vote, won the electoral vote, or electoral college, and beat Dukakis. Then he lost not long after that to Clinton. Clinton won both elections and won the popular vote. Then Bush won the electoral vote but lost the popular vote twice. Obama won twice, popular vote and electoral vote. And then Trump lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton but won the electoral vote. So it's been 32 years since a Republican won the popular vote and the electoral college at the same time. Now, to kind of get into what another comment, I'll kind of bring it into this, coming from Zen, which I couldn't agree more with this statement. It says, Trump is a master projectionist. It's the dominant trait of the narcissist, which, by all accounts, Donald Trump is a narcissist. And a misogynist, for that matter, and a megalomaniac, and a tyrant. But anyway, I went off on a tangent. If you want to know what he is doing, simply look at what he is accusing others of every single time. That is so true. Now, he's accusing Biden of cheating. Biden hasn't really said much about him cheating, other than the fact that there's been a lot of Republicans over the years suppressing votes and so forth. And according to Benjamin Creme's master, the Republicans have found a way to steal the votes. That's the reason why over the past 20 years, 3 Republicans won the electoral vote but lost the popular vote. And prior to 2000, the last time it happened was like a couple hundred years ago. I think it was Andrew Jackson was the last time that it happened. So Benjamin Creme's master said that they don't have to steal all the votes. They just have to steal votes in certain areas that are key to winning electoral, the electoral votes in, to win the electoral votes in the states that they're in. Mainly, states like Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and those kind of things. So here in Georgia, because it's mainly Republican, they don't have to steal any votes. It doesn't matter. They're already going to win, right? But to win the election, you got to win the electoral vote, not the popular vote. So it doesn't matter who has the popular vote, right? So that's why they were able to do those things. And there's been evidence that they have been stealing, because they might have, I know in Florida back in 2000, there were polling stations that might have 500 registered voters for that one polling station and over 600 or 700 votes for Bush. I mean, so they stole it. And I do think that the Democrats cheat in their own way. They suck at it. That's the reason why the Republicans are winning. So if it was a fair fight, I think Biden will mop the floor with Trump. But who knows how it's going to end up in the end? I don't know. And then they'll blame the polls as being inaccurate when all along it was the Republicans that were cheating. And it's not Trump, it's the Republicans. So hopefully not. Now, in terms of him bringing about a third world war and all that kind of stuff, when it comes to Jerusalem and the rebuilding of the Solomon's Temple, that has to do with creating justice and peace in the world. That was the symbol that John used in Revelations for that which will be in our very near future, which is the hope of humanity, really. The Buddha put it this way. He said, there would come another Buddha by name Maitreya Buddha that would inspire and galvanize humanity to build a brilliant golden civilization based on righteousness and truth. That's the way he put it. So anyway, I don't think there will be a third world war. I don't believe there will be a third world war, but I do have to admit that until the principle of sharing has taken place, there will always be a possibility of that. So the longer we delay, the more we jeopardize our own future. And that's what Maitreya is going to say. We have to start with the principle of sharing. That's the very, very first thing. And to go back to what we talked about, it's just like the Marshall Plan was right after World War II, but on a global scale. It will bring about trust amongst the nations. It will help feed the hungry. It will end hunger nearly overnight, and it will bring about true justice and true and lasting peace in the end. So hopefully that helps. Now, I do want to also comment. This comes from read a comment. Chris Laurie. Thank you for your response to my question. I really enjoy your channel and your insight. And Chris, I thank you for your kind words. That is so nice. The reason I asked if you had read The Course in Miracles was it seems any video you do, you're being told you support the Antichrist. Yeah, that's true. And the Bible says this and the Bible says that. Just like the 666 comment in this video. 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18. In the Hebrew language means live. Didn't know that. Thank you for that. I think if people could look at other information and look inside themselves, they would see we are creating this fear for ourselves, and our Creator and the Ascended Masters are trying to help us stop living this way. Whew. That is so true, Chris. Thank you so much for that. Now, I do want to put it another way, too. Or better way of saying it maybe is to explain it in a way that only Gary can. And you'll realize why I'm laughing in a second. When I was a kid, and even to this day, I love pasta. And my mom used to make pasta probably every week. We'd have a pasta night, right? My mom's pretty good at making pasta. She's really good at making marinara sauce, handmade, from scratch, homemade marinara sauce and so forth. But my mom loves mushrooms. And she used to always put mushrooms in there, and she used to chop those damn things so damn small, right? But I can't stand mushrooms. I've hated mushrooms my entire life, right? I don't like them on salad. I don't like them in, I don't like them in sauces. I don't like them on chicken. I don't like them in anything, right? She did put onions in there too, and I used to not like onions. Now I actually kind of like onions. But anyway, I have not learned to like mushrooms. But when I was a kid, I used to say, "Ooh, Mom, that's gross. I can't stand mushrooms. Ooh, I don't like that. Can you make the sauce without mushrooms?" And she would just say, "Honey, just pick out the mushrooms and push them to the side." Right? Which bugged the fool out of me. Like I said, she used to cut them so small. So, it is my Christmas wish that people who think that I am supporting an Antichrist figure would just look at this a different way and not try to believe something different than they believe. Just use their Christian values and look at it from that standpoint. Meaning, in the Christian ideology is the longing for peace, is the need to help the poor, right? I mean, that's a cornerstone principle of Christianity. So why can't they just say, I never thought that we could create peace by sharing the resources. That would bring justice, that would bring peace, that would bring a future, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth, right? But yet, they get hung up on people such as myself calling him the Christ, and they just throw it out. And a lot of times, people don't even listen to the videos themselves. They just see a title and start commenting on it. And when I've pressed them on it, they've admitted that they didn't even listen to any part of the video, and yet they're commenting away, right? Others will comment about things about my video, and to be honest with you, I'm quite shocked that they actually took the time to even listen that far into the video. So I'm impressed that they did it. But they will find when in Maitreya, and they will find when Maitreya is out open and known for who he is, they will find him to love them just as much as Maitreya loves Benjamin Creme, or me, or you, or anybody else in this world. I think there will be a lot of people who have heard about this information, who have fought against it, thought he was the Antichrist. When they really do hear Maitreya firsthand and experience his energy, experience his love, they might change their opinion of him. Others might not, and they will disagree with me on this, but, who knows, right? But they will find somebody who will love him and won't judge him, won't criticize him, won't argue with him, nothing. You will love them for who they are. And we've all been fundamentalists at some point. Maybe not in this lifetime, but maybe in previous lifetimes. I know I have. So I view these people really as my karma. So I'm just burning off karma, baby. It is what it is, baby. But anyway, David, thank you so much. Or, I'm not David. I'm sorry. Thank you, Chris, for those kind words. Alrighty. And David, thank you for your kind words too. I'm not going to get into it. It doesn't really matter. But what you said is more kind of related to what you were talking about in the last video. But thank you so much for your kind words. All right. The last comment, before it gets too long, comes from Paul B. Now, he's commenting about a book about QAnon, from QAnon, okay? I'm sure you maybe have heard about QAnon. If you haven't, look them up. I don't really feel like getting into it too much, but they're a right-wing conspiracy theorist group that have been very prominent in news of the last few months about the coronavirus, about Trump, and so forth and so forth. And they're becoming very active, very vocal, and oftentimes very confrontational in different scenes. And so I've met them in my life. They look like normal people. They could be standing right next to you, and you don't know anything until they open their mouth, and you're like, holy crap, there is a crazy person standing right next to me. But, people think I'm crazy for what I believe, so it is what it is. But anyway, this person wrote, one of their books, their prominent books, I don't know if you've seen it or not, is QAnon and the 1,000 Years of Peace. And they've got this section in there about the Maitreya and how this is part of God's plan, and God has a plan for those people. She said, and she's talking about the author Constance Cumby, who does not believe anything in this. Actually, she believes that Maitreya exists. She just thinks he's the Antichrist. Anyway, there was a video that she did on Logos Media, and the title of it is The Cult of QAnon. And he even gave the minutes in there. It's basically the 17th minute of the video, where she says that Constance Cumby, where is it? Cumby, for the first time today, I bought this book to see if Cumby is telling the truth. I had never heard Maitreya was specifically linked to QAnon. She was saying in that at that time frame, that's what it was. I kind of misread this. That in this book, she's saying that the QAnons are referring to Maitreya in some way. And anyway, I think that's what it is. Did I read the book? Nah. Am I ever going to buy the book? Nah. So I'm not even going to spend a dime on it. Even if you sent me the book for free, I'm not going to read it. Whatever. QAnon is a right-wing conspiracy theory and made up of people who are very, very, very right-wing. The conspiracy theorists that I've met in my life and the groups that are conspiracy theorists are always been very right-wing. I can't name and I can't think of one person in my life or have seen on TV or on YouTube or read online that was a left-wing conspiracy theorist. Not once, I mean, maybe there are, I'm sure there are, but I've never run into them. Alex Jones, right-wing conspiracy theorist, it's a classic example, right? Now, even if they wrote Maitreya in there, which I don't think they did, but let's just say they did. Let's just say for argument's sake that they did. It means nothing. Really. Constance Cumby, the times that I've heard her or read her book, thinks Maitreya is going to be responsible for all the destruction in the world, right? Really. And blames him for everything. It's kind of like, Donald Trump, who had his whole presidential, his presidency teed up by Obama, who had started out in a very rough shape and teed it up for him, right? Takes all the credit for his success and then blames everything from the sinking of the Titanic to the extinction of the dinosaurs on Obama, and it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. There's no truth to any of it. Is there any truth that Maitreya is related to the QAnon movement? No, there's no truth to it at all. Does Maitreya love people who are in the QAnon movement? He loves them just as much as he loves anybody else. And he loves them just as much as those people who are fighting tooth and nail to save the planet, right? Does he agree with them? No. I can pretty much safely say no, he doesn't agree with them. But, it's the problem with the internet being in the form that it is today. It's like the Wild West, man. You can write whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. You don't have to verify anything. And there are going to be people who believe it. Now, my first experience with conspiracy theories started around the time that I started reading Benjamin Creme. And these people were very convincing. They had all the details and this, that, and the other lined up. But when you really started to kind of peel away the curtain and ask them straightforward questions about whatever they're thinking, they start to really stammer and stutter and everything. But they make it sound, they have so much details about this connection with that and da 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 da, and it's all over the place, right? It's even kind of hard to follow if you're just listening to it and you don't really know what they're talking about. And the QAnon thing is kind of the same thing, and even Trump talking about Biden and Hunter Biden and this, and you listen to these people talk, it's like they're in a pretzel, man. It's like you can't even really make sense of it, really. And I've been trying to follow it. I've been trying to follow who's the bad guy, who does Donald Trump think is the bad guy, or what. I know he thinks Biden and Hunter Biden are, but it's just, but in terms of this person connected to that and this and Ukraine and this, is like, what the hell is he talking about, right? But when I did a television interview on a local cable news or cable access channel here in Smyrna, long time ago, I was on a show. I can't remember the name of the show, but the guy who ran the show, his name was Sam Matthews, older guy, very right wing, but yet kind of new agey. It was kind of weird. He would be very much into the QAnon. I mean, he was like the perfect fit for them. If he's still alive, I'm sure he's a big QAnon guy. But anyway, we're doing this interview, and we're talking about Maitreya, and he didn't believe anything in Maitreya, and he was a bit standoffish and a bit sarcastic with me, but, it was my first experience really talking about this in public in that way. And we started talking about Maitreya, and I said something about Maitreya making the prediction of the ending of the Cold War, the ending of apartheid, and all this before it happened, right? The other prediction that Maitreya made that was published in Share International, and it was at the height of the popularity of the President George Bush. I mean, his approval rating during the Iraqi war was like at 92%, unheard of for presidents, right? He made a prediction, Maitreya made a prediction that he would lose the election. Now, looking back on it, you go say, yeah, no duh. But when it happened, I mean, that was radical. I mean, it was unthinkable to even think that Bush would lose the election. Maitreya made that prediction. So I told Sam Matthews this, right? And he goes, well, it's common knowledge amongst those who know, right? Talking about those people who know about all these conspiracies and stuff, that there was a secret meeting back in the late 80s between Ronald Reagan, George Bush, and the then governor of Arkansas, Bill Clinton, that those three decided that George Bush would only have one term, and then it would be Clinton's term. And so he's telling me this, right? And he's going through all this detail. This person met that and that. And I said, well, there must have been a fourth person there in the Oval Office. He goes, no, it was just those three. That's what they said. It's just those three. And I said, no, it had to have been four. He goes, why do you say that? And I said, well, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Bill Clinton, and whoever told you. He didn't like that at all, right? In fact, he pretty much shut down after that. But when you really just poke your finger through a theory, they really don't have, there's not a lot behind it. You know what I mean? Now, are there conspiracies out there about things? Yeah, probably. But, they just take it to the nth degree, man. And, even the whole thing with the pedophilia and the Kabbalah or whatever they call it, and, and all these celebrities eating these children. I mean, I'm telling you, this is what they think. If you haven't heard it, it's pretty out there. This all started with Jeffrey Epstein, and all the powerful elite that were partying with him. And he's obviously a known pedophile. He's trafficking all these young girls and so forth. Bill Clinton was involved in it, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying it's just a Republican thing, but they also think that Trump is going to end it. He's going to be the one. He's the one that's in it. That's the reason why he got elected. That's the reason why he's doing what he's doing. That's the reason why he's getting beat up by the media the way that he's doing. It's because they know that he's going to end their reign of satanic terror, especially on these young kids. Well, my thing is this. There's a couple things. One, why hasn't he done anything about it? He hasn't done one single thing about it. If there's any truth to that, he would have done something about it. He would have been talking about him doing it because he loves to promote him. So he's a big self-promoter, right? And then the next thing is there's pictures of him partying with underage girls and Jeffrey Epstein. There's videos of him dancing with them. And Donald Trump has always had a reputation of being a philanderer, but he's always had this reputation of also making comments about underage girls in a sexually explicit way. So it stands to reason that he was probably just as guilty as these other people, and yet they're making him out to be this white knight. It's painful, I guess is my thing. So to swing it back around to this conversation, it does not matter if Maitreya's name is written in that book or not. It means absolutely nothing. Okay, most of these QAnon people would not believe in any of this anyway. You know, I've spoken to a lot of people from QAnon. I take that back. I haven't spoken anything. They've spoken to me. You know what I'm saying? So I know what they're thinking. And they don't agree with any of this stuff. This is socialism is evil, man. This is all, they would say this is satanic, right? So this would be all a part of it. But yeah, it's what she says is bullcrap, you know. But she is very, very paranoid about Maitreya, and she has her whole life. Now, like I said, the thing that I think when it comes down to it, Maitreya is out, known for who he is. People are starting to see the changes in the world. They're starting to see that peace is starting to take hold and all that kind of thing. Nations are starting to trust one another. Nations that didn't trust one another at all or hated one another are now starting to trust one another and so forth. There's an ease in the tensions and those things because humanity is listening to Maitreya's suggestions on things. Those people who are against him, there will be a lot of people who are against him now who call him the Antichrist that might look at him differently. I'll just put it like that. Others might not. You know what I mean? It's up to them. And I don't think Constance Cumby will ever really see Maitreya in any way because she's put herself out there so much that she can't turn back now. But you never know. You just never know. You know, fundamentalism is its own beast, and it ruins people's lives in a lot of ways if they're really, 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 really dogmatic. And believe me, if you're a fundamentalist, right, and I'm not judging you, right, like a Constance Cumby, you probably are painful to be around. And people probably do not want to talk to you, right, because you just don't see anything other than what you see. And she is a dog on a bone when it comes to Maitreya, just like, you know, everybody else that's a fundamentalist that's against this information is a dog on a bone, right? But anyway, I've talked too much, and you probably have turned this video off long before this time. But anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you in a few days. You take care. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.